We should be going. Yes, we are live. Oh no, are we?
Yes, we are live.
Okay, we are
We are
live.
live. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. This is Life Shifts, and we are the shifters. I have 4 other shifters with me, and I will. So basically, every single person here, Dr. Tessiering, Matt, Austin, and Sphere, I've spoken to. They have literally shifted my mind, and this is why I thought it would be awesome to have this conversation and have our different perspective. So I'm going to not talk for very long. I just want to go around so that everyone introduces themselves and where they're from, who they are, and if you have any questions on the topic, or if you have, what does mind mean to you? Just basically, very short and sweet. And I guess I'll start with Matt. Can you please let us know, since this was your question, what if the mind is not the brain?
And the volume's okay here, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I was fascinated in was when a person was depressed, the doctor would say it was because of an imbalance of chemicals in your brain. Very simple. So that was absolutely debunked about 3 years ago. Scientifically, it's a fallacy. But they've been pushing medication for years on the back of that. And there's probably doctors today who still use the same notion. So what I thought was, well, what if thought itself, we can sit and we can pontificate until the cows come home, but nobody can actually tell you what a thought is. The neuroscientists can point to an electrical pulse in the brain and say, there it is. But that's just an electromagnetic pulse. Where is thought? Now, what I then discovered, luckily for me, I was born deaf. So when it came to scanning human, luckily, by the way, I still have language. They didn't discover I was deaf until age 25. So it didn't give them time to teach me to speak like a deaf person. So I still got full language, but it became very interesting life after that, because I suddenly discovered that human beings are using these things more than these. So then, and Austin's been on some of my trainings there, so I got it down to, over the last 30 years, crystallized it down to emotional memory images. So what I'm looking at is when we have an adversity, not trauma, but just something that we're averse to, something that causes an emotional overwhelm, our frequency shifts. Now, is it possible then that this is where my coffee coaster comes in. Is it possible that in that moment, our system creates or produces a snapshot of everything in that context and environment, and then leaves it here to safeguard us, and it stores it within the mind's eye? Hence, what if the mind is not the brain? It's not stored in. Let's use logic again. I'm a guy, I like nuts and bolts. I like things to fit. And what does not fit is a traumatic memory inside the brain. It doesn't make sense because our system's hardwired. The stress response would kick in. We just keep running round if it was jammed on the inside. So for me, then this is where I'll say with Tsering, is that we're from mind. we're in this vehicle and we're traveling along, but we are all one in mind. However, this emotional memory image blocks our observation field. And if we have one, the moment it's created, our system also creates amnesia. So we're unaware that it's present. Now, we know this scientifically when we look at trauma from sexual abuse or that sort of thing. There are cases being highlighted for centuries. But I'm not talking about the PTSD level trauma. I'm chatting about just life. Just life as a human being, things happen. We get emotionally charged. And I went on then to define it, thanks to a co-author of mine, Professor Mark Johnson. He's at Leeds Beckett University. And Mark he's been brilliant for me because he's such a wonderful academic. He will not let me utter a sentence without hammering it and tearing it apart. And so he got me to define what an emotional memory image is, scientifically, what is its construct, what does it do? And in the first instance, what I looked at was what sort of overwhelm can create it. So it's very simple. It has to be a first-time experience. A first-time experience. So our system moves into a hyper-alert state, which is technically a freeze response. Yeah, because what's that? It's a freeze response, which I witnessed just last week with a lady who was wearing her hearing aids for the first time. She was in a shop and a coat hanger dropped behind her. And it's called the startle response. She was startled because she'd never heard a coat hanger. Now, nobody else turns an eye because everybody knows it's a coat hanger. But if it's a sound you've never heard before, you're instantly into startle. Well, you scan and your system says, should I fight? Should I run? Should I fight? Should I faint? Should I freeze? All of these happen instantaneously. So it must be a first-time experience. And in that moment, it causes our system to lock into a freeze response, which is what we call anachronistic. So it locks us in a time capsule or a time warp, if you would. So this is from a quantum physical aspect. One of these days, I'm going to meet a mathematician, because here's a spooky notion. What if that distance isn't actually the distance we're looking at? What if it's a quantum distance? So in that position there is the original you having the original emotional event. So it's an imprint, if you would, across time and space. Now, when we interrupt that, and it takes a nanosecond, a split second, when we interrupt it, the universe comes through and we're clear again. And that's the basis for split second and learning. And I'm Matt Hudson. I came up.
Yes.
Now, do I go quiet now? Sorry, I was passing the handle over to somebody else. I've had the conch. The conch is now over to Swear. Would you like the conch?
Thank you, Matt. I'm very much in sync with what you are saying. Although I'm quite young to this understanding, I found it about 6 years ago how we can work with this. It's called the Three Principles approach. Maybe you've heard of it. It's from Sydney Banks. He used to be a Scots welder. And he's got this understanding which has been developed, and I've ran into it 6 years ago. I'm trying to connect that to science. I'm working with Dr. Adrian Denkers here in the Netherlands. He's doing some research on social psychology, how it works. But I'm also looking at Dr. Anil Seth from the UK, from Sussex. He's got a lab where he is working with consciousness. I don't know him personally, but he's telling us some stuff in his videos, which is quite interesting because it's telling us a lot of stuff on how we create our experience, and that's what the Three Principles adapts also. I think we create our own experience all the time, constantly, with our brain, not with our mind, because the mind is a bigger thing. Mind is the intelligence behind life. And you could call that universe, you could call that God, you could call it anything you'd like. But it's the smartness behind life, really, because we cannot make a human, we cannot make a plant. There's an intelligence behind that we can't compare ourselves to. But we have these insights now and then. I call them morning shower moments. When you say, oh yeah, of course, that's how I solve this, that's how I do it. And we don't know where that comes from. And exactly as you said, we don't know where thoughts come from. We don't know where consciousness comes from. We cannot point it in the brain. There's no way we can do that. But in a way, we are a receptacle for stuff coming in. And we process that. And what I say is we build our own concept. And this is not true, this is just my theory. We build our own concept of who we are from childhood. The moment you start walking and your parents praise you over the moon, you start saying, oh, this is good. I want more of this because now I'm praised, and unless you find the crayons and paint a beautiful painting on the wall, where you would notice that it works the other way around too. But that goes on, and we are conditioned through our life all the time, because then you go to primary school and you are being praised for doing beautiful writing or calculating or so on, and it goes on. And nowadays, when you watch the television says, take this pill, you'll be happy. But there are all external factors which don't influence you, because you create that experience all the time through that enormous intelligent thing which we call our brain. It's a smart thing, but it's a computer, nothing else. And it is so important that we start to realize that every non-helping experience always gave you the same 4 results. It'll make you feel awful. You'll spend heaps of time trying to process it and solve it. It will spend a lot of energy just to solve it. And afterwards you'll be thinking, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Well, at the other hand, if you have a helping experience, it makes you feel great. The sad thing, it's over before you know it. It gives you energy. And afterwards you'll be proud of yourself, or the person who's involved, or the team who's involved. So I tell people, don't spend time in non-helping experiences. And if you do that, you'll notice that we learn very quickly. We learn within seconds, stuff like that. And then you'll see that you'll pay less attention to those non-helping experiences all the time, and your brain will go quiet. What happened to me after 2 years of doing this is that my brain went blank at some stage. No more thought. At first I was shocked. Hey, it's not working anymore. What's going on? But then I realized, wait a minute, that's exactly what I want. I want to have calmness in my brain, so I have access capacity just to think and to come up with new ideas, new creativity, and so on and so on. And that's what we all have available to us. And that's what I think people like Einstein and Hawkins and that kind of people do. They connect to that. And in some sort of a way, they connect to a higher order of thinking where they get those ideas. Well, that's my rampage. Let me hand on to Austin. Is that okay?
Was? I suppose I come from a bodywork background, and it's been for 20 years. I was really interested in how the body functioned, and was particularly interested in fascia. I've even brought my little fascia dog here as an illustration. And given what we're talking about in terms of coming at it from a slightly different point of view, what we tend to do is we tend to define ourselves based on, well, there's a leg and a neck and a body, etc. And yet this is one balloon. And I would say that the mind is very similar, is that actually this has got its formation based on its experiences being, let's say for the sake of argument, being twisted out of different places to become this. And I would say that when you say the brain, I would argue that the whole of the body is the brain, or a manifestation. There is no separation. Just because we say, oh, that blubbery thing in the skull, we call it the brain. Actually, well, only because someone decided to cut it out of there. There's no real separation. We are an extension, and we manifest whatever our thoughts are. And in certain philosophies, we can see all our good deeds and bad deeds, and they're right on our face or on our posture or on our actions. And what I was seeing in clinic was that there were particular problems that people kept using particular types of words and particular ways of describing a problem. And I thought, I've heard that before in someone else, and it's a similar thing. So I was guessing. And then actually I ended up meeting Matt about 8 years ago, and he had the answer to my question. He was, coming from his point of view, he'd already been noticing for his whole life that the expression of disease was manifesting in body language and eye movements and particular words and expressions. And so what I found is that it was the missing piece to my puzzle, is that I could see certain things in the physical manifestation, and yet there was also a communication through thought and through word and body language that then said, I am trying to communicate my problem that I can't communicate in any other way. And so over the years, I've been really fascinated by Matt's work, because it really, to me, is a superb tool that in some cases I could be working body work until the cows come home, and yet I would get nowhere. And yet it can be the right word in the right place, and it releases let's say the loop of time that holds the disease in place. And we both have a certain love of Plato with regards to this idea that something called the Charmanides dialogue in the early Socratic dialogues is this idea of delivering what he describes as the charm, I think Matt calls it, but it's this idea of that there is this idea that the connection of healing is both from a Greek point of view anyway, in three levels. There's a physical, there's the mind, and then there's, depending on your translation, the idea of the soul, or what is described as the charm in this particular case. And so this idea is you cannot heal the physical unless the mind is in unison, and you can't heal the mind unless the soul is healed. Now, you can translate in a bunch of different ways how you like it. And I would say that Matt's genius is to deliver that key to the soul or the spirit, or whatever, give it a name, that enables the mind to heal, which then enables the body to heal. And And so that's kind of where I'm coming from, is I've found that the more simple it is, actually the quicker one can access the healing process, because ultimately I'm assuming we're all here because we believe in helping others. And if I can do that with the least amount of impact, because yes, body work's all very fine, but then again, some people don't like to be touched, or there are restrictions, and it's a power game often, I think, is the less I get myself involved and the more we allow the client to do the work. Actually, that empowers the person rather than coming to you as oh, please fix me. Actually, the more the client can take on responsibility for the healing and the unwinding, or whatever word you want to use, then we can repair and heal based on our own power, rather than going to someone going, oh, please, Mr. Doctor, give me a pill. I've been abusing my body for 20 years. I want one pill and I'll be sorted. Well, maybe that will work. Or maybe it's a case of, well, how about us taking on that and empowering the client? I hope that made a little bit of sense. Hello, my name is Austin Burne-Jones and I'm from The Body Curious. Dr. Sirin.
Hi. Thank you, man. The thing is, Vijay, I want to convey, right? So, in previous discussion also, we said like body and the brain, right? And that time I said like the mind, the brain is not the mind. But then, okay, so there is a lot of confusion arises in that situation. So, Lord Buddha said specifically these two words. The mind of the human being, as such, we are all human being, right? That intelligence has a sixth fallacy in it. And there are 6 emotions. Unless and until you have that 6 emotions, you are not going to have an enhanced perception of the life. Okay? So you have to find out these 6 emotions, which like anger, envy, jealousy, and in this there are total 6. Okay? So we all have an inefficient mind. Inefficient mind means we believe the restricted perception of the world we all are having, and we believe it is true. And all of us lives like we believe the world through our pupil. Now this is like 2 millimeter hole. Suppose we are enjoying life through that small perception. If suppose, imagine how much we can perceive if we release all this blockade, right? So that was continuation of the previous discussion. Now this one is like is a fusion of mind and the body, like spirituality and the science. Because from last so many years, I've been doing surgery on people, right? Heart surgeries. Almost I have done like 3,000 patients now. But then there is always a very picky, very interesting phenomena that I always observe, right? Suppose in the early morning, we anesthetize the patient. And then after 4 hours, we do surgery. And then in between that gap, nobody remembers. The body doesn't remember also. When the consciousness comes back to the body, it's very, suppose in that particular stage, if the person is having some legal issues in his previous life, he will just goes on uttering those words like a delirium, right? So that was very fascinating. Then after years and years, like try to find out the mind, I developed a kind of root framework. It's a framework, right? It really to the point. So if you analyze the human body as a kind of movement, only movement, and there is nothing, right? then you will get to the glimpse that what is mind and what is body. So embryologically, when you see the human body, so all of the living species that exist in on Earth, right, from amphibians to vertebrates, fish, amphibians, birds, these elephants, crocodiles, snakes, humans, both male, female, or they all develop from a single code. We call it like ectodermal code.
Dr.
Neural,
Kazir, breaking
yeah,
up. Can you just say it again?
it's like evolutionary. There is a common blueprint of development for all of us. One genetic blueprint. At various stages of development, some regresses, stops, some progresses forward. And one of the advanced progresses is like human beings. And all these movement are regulated at the brain level only. We call this like basal ganglia. All the movement is regulated, optimized, reinforced, fine-tuned. All this done at the level of basal ganglia and the cerebellum. Cerebellum is located in the back of the brain, right? So question comes, then how come, where is the mind then? Is it the body is the body is the brain, mind, or the brain is the mind, or mind is something different? Now question comes, all the limbs, your legs, your foot, okay, these all are regulated at the level of spinal cord. All these movement messages goes to the brain through the spinal cord. It is optimized at the cerebellum, fine-tuned at the basal ganglia, and reinforced again at the basal ganglia level. While signaling that messages the brain sends to the body, it is optimized at cerebellum. So these are all going like automatic mode, right? So in grossly, I thought like there are three kinds of movement in human beings. Okay, one is very subtle, like molecular level movements where we cannot actually detect it, like gut movements, breathing, circulation, metabolism. All this the brain cannot detect this kind of movement. And then to fulfill this movement of the first movements that is happening, like metabolic requirement, right? Suppose you have a full bladder, then you have to move. You have to randomly move, eat, move, and walk around. This is like second kind of movement where there is no intention. And the third kind of movement is like you are moving with an intention. So, right, I said right that all the limbs and the limbs are regulated through the spinal cord and this brainstem, right? All the chest level movement, like you want to take deep breathing, that happens at the level of medulla oblongata, brainstem. All the facial movements, like eye movement, like tongue movement, and jaw movement, that goes to the brain's mid. Actually, the brain it's a forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain. So all the face messages goes to like midbrain. Okay. Then there are two signaling systems that bypass midbrain and the brainstem. One knows that sense of smell. That bypass the brainstem and directly goes to the this prefrontal cortex. In the eye also, the messages through the eye that goes to the brain, that also bypasses all this system. Now, this was like the difference between the how the body is actually registered into the brain and how these two are coordinating, right? But these are all not mind. They are not mind. They are just moving happen like randomly. Okay. So we come to the first question that I said, that all human beings born on the earth has born with an intelligence which has embedded 6 emotion in it. And if you somehow uh, transform these emotions, then you will have an amplified response, amplified perception of the world. This is what I understood till now. So previous discussion that we use the analogy to identify the mind in us only. Okay, that once there was a mind and the body was there, and the mind was actively engaged with the world. It was very awake, and the awake mind was like arranging the world around him, right? Then one day it got bored and it said like it delegated his all work to the body and he slept. Now nobody tried to awake the mind, and the body deliberately kept the mind in their sleep state. And ever since the mind is sleeping, that's why all of these scriptures say like the dreamer is in you. Awake the dreamer. Somewhere is the dreamer is sleeping. The dreamer is in the tomb. The dreamer is in the Calvarium. It's in your head. Somebody says like it is in the casket that is nailed with nails. So we discuss all these photographs in the last
You just broke up at the end.
what?
You just broke up at the end.
That was our that was the last time discussion, that mind and body is different. And how it is different? It is like this: the mind is sleep, it has to awake.
Okay. So how do we wake it? Through our dreams?
There are lots of other strategies and all the thing, but then it's not 8 hours. This is just enough. Then if somebody just have a glimpse of this idea, then automatically they will just search around and find it. They will find out the answer.
Okay. Wow. Have you wrote a blog on this?
Actually, I try to, but then nobody in this time we are in. Actually, people are not bothered.
Not bothered. Okay.
Not only that, this movement. Just I said, no movement. If you see a dead man, there is no movement is happening, right? And the movement is life. Suppose if you say like movement is life, okay. Now, if you move around, okay, if you move around without any intention or whatever, you randomly move around. One, the hippocampus in deep structure of the brain, right? The hippocampus, it registers all the movement, all the memory, and special navigation system also it has. So it always tell us where we are. Okay. And height is also a movement. Suppose a small child is there. If the child is small and it goes like this, 2 foot, 3 foot, 5 feet, 5 feet, there is also a movement, right?
Yeah.
That movement is done by pituitary gland. And the body gets a sense of time, day and night, that is done by pineal gland. And there are so many things, but these are all happening automatically. So one question should come in all of us: how we are getting coherent to the time in the world where where are we? Okay.
Your question was, where are we?
Yes. Suppose in all of us wakes up when the sun comes. All of us goes to sleep when the sun goes down. So all of us is like there are so many biological clock in us. From this hypothalamus is the central clock, right? All the system, all the organs is a one tiny clock. That all are sync to the main that hypothalamus biological clock. So all of us is in sync to the sun. If you disrupt this one, then again the whole system just goes in reverse direction. And there are other mind-bending stuff also. We don't want to shatter all our belief. No, we say like, okay, we are all like, I'm having this thinking. This is the mind. Okay, so there is another variable that influences the thinking pattern. That is the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, electromagnetic radiations they call it. And during Soviet time, one physicist was doing research for electromagnetic radiation.
You're breaking up ever since you started speaking about the just
Electromagnetic.
yeah, electromagnetics. Right. You started breaking up. So can you say that again? From
During Soviet time, this Schumann, Arthur Schumann, I think Schumann resonance. That the guy came with the concept of Schumann. He did a research on electromagnetic radiations and its effect on human being, and physiology and all these circadian rhythm, right? So the moment he blocked all possible electromagnetic radiations to the chamber, everybody got disoriented to completely disoriented. People were out of sync, they become like a zombie. So the moment they put the human being back into the system, into the zone of electromagnetic radiations, only then they get the sense of who we are. Okay, these are all interesting stuff, right? But they are very, very curious thing. So another thing, I said like the human being, our thinking and all the things like depend on the sun, right? Now another question comes. Okay, so how come people in 1,000 years ago was living like a stable? Their thought was like bit stable, right? Their attention span was also higher than us. This is what people says, right? Everybody believes in the 3,000, 2,100 or 200 years ago, human beings' attention span was good, right? Then the current era,
better than today.
right? So
Yes.
that not only that, the Schumann resonance, there is a concept, right? When that resonance goes up, human beings' mental activity also swings with the resonance. So our thought and emotions are influenced by so many things, random things, but we all never knew it.
If I can step in for a second, just
Okay.
on that piece. I wrote a paper last year on entropy.
Entropy, yes.
Which I think is what you're chatting about here. So you are correct, reference attention span, etc. Over the centuries, we've definitely shifted. However, if we look at entropy It's fascinating because my paper still isn't published. I sent it to Mark Johnson to co-author it, and it should have been published this time last year. So I've just remembered I'm going to email him to say what the heck's happening with that paper. But it's there, and what I discovered in the paper was this. It's very simple. Adult human beings, our entropy is small. Basically, we crave certainty. So,
Okay.
for an example, if your partner comes home 5 days a week from work at 5 o'clock, that knowledge is known to you, so it costs you very little entropy. Yeah, it doesn't cost energy. It's 4:30. You're still not spending any energy because your partner will appear at 5 o'clock from Monday to Friday. Yeah. Today it's Tuesday, and it's now 5:15, and your partner has not appeared. Now, what is happening to your entropy? Yeah, your energy. You're picking up the phone. Your partner doesn't answer. The phone rings dead. Nothing has happened. Nothing. However, everything is happening to you individually as your entropy is increasing. Yeah. So you're hurling through the abyss. Your energy is fleeting because you are unaccustomed to change. Now, I said adult human beings. A wonderful chap I like to call colleague called Siddhartha Mitra, one of your countrymen. Siddhartha Mitra, he won TED Talks in 2013 for the best TED Talk on the planet. Wonderful educationalist. Newcastle University retired from Professor Emeritus. So I chatted with Siddhartha on this. And we were talking about how the education system was redundant 200 years ago when the British education system, it was redundant when they first rolled it out. However, it's still rolling along. So, Siddhartha proposed a different position. He said, well, what if we're looking at it wrong? What if it's doing exactly what it was set up to do? Now, this is where the entropy field comes in. Animals and children have high entropy. But then we're forced to put our children through an education system which reduces their entropy field, amplifying anything that comes from a change perspective will amplify dis-ease in their system. Which I think technically, Tsering, is sort of what you were saying. And I like to write papers on it so that people can read it so they can get where I'm at, but I have a hearing aid now, so it sort of helps. But I couldn't really catch all of what you were saying, so I'm hoping that lends a little to what you were saying. The nod, I'll take a nod.
I'd say that one of the things that is being raised more and more over time is what I might classify as being philosophy around the subject of health, is that the idea of, let's say for the sake of argument, either faith or a philosophical approach doesn't really exist in modern medicine, and yet it was part of the furniture in every ancient Western physic, whether it be ancient Western medicine, ancient Ayurvedic medicine, ancient Chinese medicine. There was an understanding that the idea of light, and give that a metaphor, whether it's light in the soul or light in the mind or light in the physical, was understood. So if we are a solar body, we are dependent on the sun, then in the physical, something like gold, which was seen as being representative of the sun, was administered as a medication for depression. And of course, from our point of view, we might describe depression as being a lack of light in the mind or in the soul. So either way, bringing light to the darkness can be applied at whichever level you choose to look at the problem. You understand?
Yeah. That one thing, basically this idea of the sunlight, right? Sunlight, this is so simple to understand. It's
Indeed.
so simple because the these trees traps the energy of the sun, and it is in the form of ATP, right?
Mm.
And human eats the ATP and it produces the energy and we runs on it, right?
Mm.
Now, whatever packed food you are seeing in the market, nothing of it has an energy source in the form of ATP.
Indeed.
The moment it goes into the system, it just goes on rotating in the system because the body has no method like waste disposal system. This is what people are saying. Because whenever you are eating a food that doesn't have a sun energy, it becomes a big burden for the body, I think.
Indeed. Well, I think it depends what type of food you mean. If
Packed
it's
food.
processed, then it's dead, isn't it? There is no life in it. And so it takes more energy to get the life out of it because it's dead. You're eating a zombie, basically. If you see, however, that real food is stored sunlight, then that makes more sense. And we know that from an amino acid point of view, you've got tryptophan, tyrosine, and phenylalanine, which both require ultraviolet light, and that translates as either pain relief or mood. And so you actually require sunlight to convert the amino acids into your emotions. And that requires sunlight of some kind, whether it's stored living food or stored living thinking. If you have dead thoughts, then guess what? You're not going to get anywhere with that. You can apply this metaphor at every level. That's the idea of light in the darkness. And Matt is jumping up and down going, "Woo, I need to speak." Matt, over to you.
Well, because I think if I just sort of pop in on key pieces, because again, I coincidentally written a paper on this, and with Mark Johnson can have the credit for this one. We bounce back and forth. It's an excellent paper, well worth the read, and it's called Perspectives on the Insidious Nature of Pain Metaphor. We literally need to change our metaphors. And the article, it's quite a big article, but we looked at how Western biomedical model has dissembled metaphor wherever it has gone. It has taken away metaphor. It's almost as if, conspiracy theory alert, it's almost as if they've taken the very essence of the Greek approach to Western and deconstructed it to a level that it will fail. And within there, we look at the biophilic, which is what you guys are talking, the natural metaphors we used to use. India, by the way, has some wonderful, beautiful natural metaphors because you still have a lot of villages. Yeah, and the more villages you have with less connection to the medical system, these people tend to fare well with metaphor. Why? Because we're back to the Greeks, the charm. If you apply the charm, now I don't have a spoon with me, but let's imagine I've got a spoon in here. Yeah. I used to treat children with headaches and tummy upsets with a glass of water and a spoon. The key ingredient, the spoon. Why? I'd apply the charm. I would say to the kids, now this is special medicine. I shouldn't really give it to you because it's for grown-ups. But what it does is it makes, insert whatever presenting problem, headaches, tummy upsets, it makes them go away. And it makes you, insert positive outcome, happier, more, better at mathematics, whatever you wish. Hand to child, sip, sip. It usually takes a little, what are you noticing now? Oh, thank you. Off to your classroom. Now, what did I do? I supplied water, a spoon, but I supplied the charm. Now, metaphors are the charm. And what we've highlighted in that paper, and I do encourage you to read it, we've highlighted in the paper the necrophilic. Now, I had my two co-authors on that paper are both eminent professors and really good academics. So you can imagine when I said, we're going to bring in necrophilia, anyone? But it's exactly what the biomedical system is. It's a necrophilic system. It supports death and it kills anything that's biophilic. Anything natural that gets in its path, it strips to its basics so that it's dead in a test tube, and then it attempts to bring life to that which is already alive via death. It's a necrophilic system. But again, I prefer to write it in paper form because I have an accent. I'm from the north of England, so it's far better that I commit to paper so that you can actually understand what I'm saying. But it's another wonderful paper on metaphors, and really we introduce within it. You can really begin to realize that without metaphor, without that charm, without that connection, we are lost. Society is lost. Humanity is lost. That's connection. Yeah. So now I'll go quiet again.
Matt, can you share that, please, in the chat? The text of the title of the paper.
Yeah. Well, the title is "Perspectives on the Insidious Nature of Pain Metaphor." Can I pop links into here? Or?
Yeah. Here. Can you mute yourself? Okay.
Right-hand side of the screen, private chat.
And a chat. But what I'll do is, if I put if you give me 1 minute, I'll do this. I can put my Frontiers page in here. And then if you check on my profile, it'll come in with the papers. That'll do us. Let's see.
I found it.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Because you'd also want split-second unlearning. And
you can also make a comment after this
Oh, wonderful.
our live session. Yeah, we don't need to do it now. We are almost 55 minutes. Do we want to move? Since we've been sitting for a long time.
I need to go in 5 minutes. So I'm sorry
Me
about that.
too. I'm gone. I'm on a hard stop at 5.
Okay, perfect. Then
It's
thank you so much for all of you being here. I really appreciate this. I have to rewatch this, I have to say, because there was a lot of information. And the more I have this shift in my mind, I believe what Austin mentioned about healing, I believe healing is the agency. So it's important to have this mind shift. And so thank you so much for each one of you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Okay. Have a nice day. Bye, everyone.
I'm
Bye-bye.
probably there for split second on learning as well. Then that's wonderful. Thank you for this afternoon. Lovely to meet you guys.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I think it's worth mentioning, Matt, because I think Sweer, you're in the Netherlands and I'm in Antwerp. I think it's worth mentioning you're coming over in August to do 4 days on this stuff, aren't you, in Antwerp?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So maybe we can contact, and you're over in Berlin, Hengame. So again, 4 days in. What is it? What date is it? It's the beginning of August.
The 11th of August.
Oh, the 11th of August, you're going to be in Belgium.
8th to the 11th.
The 11th. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 4 days.
Wow.
In August.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely be there.
Whereabouts are you in Sweer, in Netherlands?
And this is southeast, so it's quite close to the Belgian border.
Oh,
I'm in
Den
Bosch. Den Bosch.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, maybe we can, make a face-to-face contact because I'm sometimes up that way. So it's,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful.
Great.
Absolutely.
I really want to meet people in person. So Austin is the only one who I've met in person. So thank you. I'll definitely be there.
And
Cool.
so is everybody, how do I get emails from here so I can contact you guys?
Oh, I can send everyone's contact to you. Not a
Brilliant.
problem.
Wonderful. Then I can
Wonderful.
we can
Yeah,
send
wonderful.
communications.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I'll send everyone's information. Thank you, Dr. Tessiering, for joining
Thank you.
us that late. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.
Okay, I'm ending
With that, he left then.
Let's see.
Okay, I have to stay in the video.
Bye.